words from the end of the second chapter of Genesis 2 and the beginning of Genesis 3. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till it and keep it. And the Lord commanded that you may freely eat of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For the day that you eat of it, you will die. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal that the Lord had made, and he said to the woman, "Did God say you shall not eat of any tree of the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but God said, you shall not eat from the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die." But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and there was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband who was with her, and he ate. And their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. This is the word of the Lord. My friends, this is the first Sunday of the season of Lent. The season that began this past Wednesday on Ash Wednesday and will end at the beginning of the 3 days on Monday, Thursday. This is the season in the church year where we're called to surrender. Where we're called to surrender ourselves to God. It's a season of radical trust. And historically, people have given things up for Lent. Tradition says that the season initially started as a fast with only small meals being eaten over the whole time of the season. But eventually it came to be where folks would just give up, say, meat on Friday. And in more contemporary times, we give up everything from Diet Coke and chocolate to social media to spending money on our Reese's peanut butter cups. The point is to help us renew our focus on God and on God's power. It also serves as a season of repentance, of turning around so that we can see the world through God's eyes by taking stock of our lives and figuring out where our relationships with God have strayed and where they have stretched and what's keeping us from most fully living in to the purpose that God has set for us. We ask ourselves, what do we need to do to turn around and start with fresh eyes? And also, in our history as the Church Universal, during the season of Lent, new people to the faith were told the story of what it means to be a follower. They were taught during the season, and this season of learning would culminate at the Easter Vigil on Holy Saturday, where they would be baptized into the faith. So there's a lot that goes on in the season of Lent. And yet, we slow down. We take stock. And we rest. Rest in this journey and not be too eager to get to Easter. Rest in the journey and see and acknowledge the potholes and the broken bridges, to take time to mend and repair and then move forward. So often we want to rush to the resurrection. We want to be there when the tomb is empty. That we miss seeing the beauty that happens in the reconciliation of repentance and renewal. And the season, like I said, begins on Ash Wednesday. The Wednesday just passed where many of us were marked with ash and the cross to remind us that from dust we've come and to dust we will return. We come face to face with our own mortality and our need for reconciliation and redemption. And we also learn of our part in the continuing story of God's unfolding. We are created from stardust and dirt, and will return to the land and to the stars. And for me, there's something beautiful in that imagery. Something beautiful in the fact that the atoms in my body have touched the stars. That I'm part of a great cosmic dance that started out of nothing. Nothing but the sheer purpose of being a recipient of God's love. And this takes us to today's text, where there's a crack in that creation. Will you pray with me? Holy Spirit, do thy will, O Holy Spirit. Come. Come and fill this place with your love.
Yes, Lord.
Fill us to overflowing so that our cup runneth over.
Yes, Lord Jesus.
And in this preaching moment, oh God, remove from me anything that gets in the way of your word being heard. Remove it as far as the east is from the west, so that the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts may be acceptable to your purposes of grace, O God, our rock, and without a doubt,
Yes, Lord.
our Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
So if you don't mind this morning, I'd like to share a parable for this sermon. A parable of stardust and dirt. It rests from my sanctified imagination as I spent time with the text. In the beginning, silence. Silence beyond any silence we can comprehend. Maddening silence. Deafening silence. Nothingness beyond nothingness. And behind that silence sat the artist. The artist without a subject. The artist with an empty canvas, craving to create. The artist sat behind the silence, and their heart burned with love, radiating off the artist, love pulsating, love their very being, their essence. And the artist had an idea. They took that love, and with a word, with a breath, they blew it onto the canvas. That love, that breath hit the canvas and exploded into the silence. Any sound swallowed by the vacuum of nothingness. It exploded, that love exploded and started to spread, and it began to run off the edges of the canvas onto the floor. It began to cover the walls of space and time, and the artist smiled. The artist saw their creation. Oh, and it was good. And the artist took the ever-expanding creation and began to swirl it together with a little bit of this and a thought of that. And soon stars were born, and they began to burn. These fires of holy love ignited in the darkness. Oh, and they began to sing. They began to sing, pulling other particles into their orbits. They began to sing, and stardust and dirt started mixing on the artist's palette, growing closer and closer, tighter and tighter. The bits of stardust and dirt danced around and started strumming the strings of a celestial symphony. And the artist smiled. And the artist watched as their creation grew and began to take shape. Quarks and quasars, atoms and ions, all blending together, creating a masterpiece. And yet something was missing. That breath of love, that breath that breathed all of this into being, still longed for something more. So the artist found one of the dancing orbs and began to take some of the stardust and the dirt, and they rolled up their sleeves and they stuck their hands into the mud and the clay, the stardust and the dirt, and they started sculpting. Clay and dirt, the stardust brought from that first breath. And the artist massaged the mud, rubbing their hands across the stardust and dirt. They began to shape at first a lump in the middle. And then from the lump, arms and legs began to emerge, and eyes and a mouth and ears and skin, all the skin, the color of earth, black and beautiful, shining in the light of the nearby star. The artist looked at their creation, and a tear of joy rolled down their cheek. But still, something was missing. In the beauty of all of this creation, something was missing. So the artist brushed their hand across the face of this new creation and opened their mouth, and with a kiss shared the breath of love. The artist breathed into this new creation their very essence, their very image, their very creative love. And the artist was stunned by the beauty of their creation and smiles. And they began to carve into the canvas rivers and ravines, adding mountains and trees. The canvas begins to breathe with the very breath of love that fills this new creation, this new creation, this new created God called Adamah, called from the earth, from the stardust and dirt. The created one exhales, and the creation inhales. And the cycle begins, a dance that grows as the artist adds critters, furry and scaly, slimy and smooth, and they dance and fritter across this new creation, dance in a rhythm set by the celestial symphony, conducted by the light of the moon, and together they all rejoice in the beauty of this creation of plenitude. From the stardust and dirt go trees bearing fruit and all food to eat. Trees designed with intentionality by the artist. Trees that sing their song through the dance of the seasons. And in the middle of the garden, the artist creates a tree of such beauty, such wisdom, such knowledge of good and evil. The sap swirling within it springs from the essence of the artist, leaving themselves in the art. The artist in this masterpiece sets a boundary for the created. Eat of anything in all of creation, they say. Eat of anything, just not from this tree. The fruit it contains is too much for you. If you eat it, you will die. The created one, the one from the earth, listens to the artist and follows the wind of the rivers until the brightness of the day releases its hold and the beauty of the moon covers the canvas. And the artist, they stand back and relish their creation, but knows that a piece is missing. And so while the created one sleeps, the artist takes a piece from them and sculpts another, a companion for the created, a partner, a friend, a lover. And as the birds begin their morning ritual, singing sweetly across the plain, the created one opens their eyes and beholds the beauty of the created next to them. Their skin, ebony and beautiful, dark as the dirt and stardust from which they were born, and they behold each other. Hands reach out, arms entwine, two bodies become one, sharing the love between them, the love that breathed them into creation, and they rise. They rise forever connected, two made one and one made two. They rise and together they surround themselves in the beauty of the love that the artist has created for them. They come to the trees and they eat until their bellies are full, mindful always that the artist will never let them, what's the word? Hunger. Day in and day out. Together they dance to the song of the birds, the sweet melodies of the melting ice, the percussion of the thunder. They dance and the artist watches and sees it all as very, very, very good. The created ones rise and make their way to the center of the garden, where the most beautiful of all the trees grows. The tree set as a boundary. The tree where the fruit bears knowledge of good and evil, concepts unknown to the created ones, as they have only ever known love. They have only ever experienced the love of the artist, love that never leaves them. But in the branches of this tree, the artist leaves blank spaces of canvas, unpainted parts. In the branches, that nothingness from the beginning remains. The silence and vacuum of all that was before hides in the empty canvas. The knowledge of good and evil. And the created one sees the blank spaces, and they're drawn to them, drawn to the emptiness with their own desire to create as they were created. And a voice comes from the branches, a voice not of the artist, but out of the silence. And the voice whispers to the created one, you want to create as the artist creates? You want to know all that the artist knows? To see all they see? Then eat from this tree and create. Yes, the created one says. Yes, we want to know, but the artist says no. From this tree also comes something called death. Oh, but you will not die when you eat from this. You will create. You will create and become like the artist. And the second of the created ones takes and eats from the tree and hands the fruit to the first created one, who also tastes the sweetness of the knowledge of good and evil. Oh, and they relish that fruit. Juice running down their chins onto their bare skin. Skin that now causes sensations they've never known. Shame, lust. The first created feels their body pulsating and power coming over them that seeks to subdue the second. Power and rage never felt before. The first created looks at their partner not with eyes filled with the breath of love, but eyes empty as the blank canvas in the branches. And the second created covers themselves no longer the subject of love, but the object of desire. They cover themselves, and then their eyes start to leak salty liquid, salty water, not the sweet water that comes from the river in the garden, but water that is salty and bitter. And they run from the tree, covering themselves in shame and ashamed. And the artist sees what has happened, and their heart breaks. Their heart breaks, for their created ones have turned their backs on the artist. The artist knows the created had to have a choice. They couldn't be fully who they were created to be without the ability to make the choice. And the artist grieves of the choice they made. Their heart is torn, shredded like the nascent universe in that first breath. And the artist comes to the canvas seeking them. Where are you? Where have you gone? We heard you and were afraid because we were naked and bare before you. But I created you. I created you beautiful to me, perfectly created. But you have chosen to taste of that fruit and chosen not to remain on the path I had for you, but the path now you will lay for yourselves. And you, first of my creation, you knew, and you stayed quiet as your companion ate. You did not step in to stop them. You remained silent as they did what you knew was wrong, and my heart breaks. My heart breaks. And the artist took the created from the garden and gave them the tools of creation. You have the spark of creation. You created from the stardust and dirt. You have within you the breath of love that creates. But I can no longer do it all for you. You've tasted the knowledge of good and evil. So now create. You will experience pain. Pain that comes from rejection and hurt that comes from death. You will celebrate in the new creation of life and rejoice in the growth around you, and your heart will break when your creation turns their back on you. Because you chose this way. You will know and experience all I experience. And the created ones from the earth, the one called earth and the one called living, left the garden. And they began to create on their own. They planted and they grew. They toiled in the soil with their hands. They gave birth and watched as their offspring grew. And they felt fire burning in their eyes as one child killed the other. Pain beyond anything they ever knew existed ripped at their hearts. And the created ones grew and grew numerous, and the artist watched. And at times they drew close to the artist, and at times they rejoiced in the blank canvas. And the artist watched as their beloved ones grew to make choices to create with the breath of love or destroy with the heat of hate. The artist watched as the stardust and dirt grew to astounding things, and watched as they would destroy what they created. The artist watched until they could watch no longer, as they could no longer be separated. And so the artist, their heart burning with love for their creation, love radiating and pulsating their very being, the artist had an idea. Out of the stardust and dirt I created. Into the stardust and dirt I'll go. I will surrender myself to bring creation back to me. I will surrender myself to them so they will know how much I love them. Love that created them. Love that breathed in them. Love that never gave up on them. I will surrender myself to them so they will know my love and will breathe on them again and revive them anew. I will bring them hope into their hopelessness, healing into their hurting. I will go into the stardust, into the dirt, to be with them now and forever. And so the artist went. The stardust and dirt taking on the form of the created, living, laughing, crying, hurting, dying. And the artist breathed again onto the gathered creation, reminding them that from stardust and dirt they come, and to the same that we will return. The artist breathed on them the breath of love, filling them with the power of creative love. The artist is filling us with the breath of love. Created in the image and the essence of that love, we are given the opportunity to be co-creators with the artist, creating love, breathing love, making love, and filling the blank canvas with God's creative, redeeming love. Amen. Our hymn of response this morning is a new song, and it's on the insert that you received. The sun is on the sea and shore. Jay's going to play it through for us once, and then we'll sing together.